So the general form ax squared plus bx plus c is basically also called the standard form, and we have the a value that represents some effect on the graph, and the c value that represents some effect on the graph. And essentially the a value, which I'll write down here, the a affects the expansion vertical, and it should be very clear, is vertical expansion and compression. Okay, the c value is the y-intercept, because the y-intercept is when x is 0. So if x is 0, these two terms become 0, and we're just left the y value of c. So c represents the y-intercept value. Okay, when x equals 0. Okay, so if we take a look at these different graphs, okay, so if we take a look at the graph of the first one here, y equals 2x squared plus 3x plus 0, okay, we end up with a graph that looks like this. It's facing up, and it's going to be oriented like that. It's probably a little bit thinner. It's going to look like that. If we take a look at the same graph, except when we change it from plus 0 to minus 4, what ends up happening is we end up with, just do this one in blue, it's the exact same shape, but it's going to have a point that's 4 lower. So in this case, the y-intercept is at 0. Here the y-intercept is at -4. We can see that the same point on the graph has been shifted down 4. Now, if we take a look at the last one, which I'll do in red, okay, that 0 represents the y-intercept. The negative means it's upside down, and we end up with a graph that looks like this. Okay, so that's going to be crossing at 0. Okay, and I should maybe draw this a little bit thinner because it's definitely going to be a little bit thinner compared to these ones here, because the vertical expansion factor of 5 is going to stretch it out 5 times, whereas this one's only stretching it out 2 times. Okay, so when we graph these on our graphing tools, we can see how the different values of A and C will change the look of the graph. Now, one thing you should note is that this vertex didn't seem to move here, but it seems to move here. So that vertex relationship becomes a little bit more complex. Okay, and we notice that 3 stays the same. And that 3 does have something to do with the vertex, but not entirely. So what ends up happening is the vertex does end up changing. And this middle value has something to do with it, but it's a very complicated relationship, and we're not really going to get too deep into that, but it does have some effect, and we'll investigate that a little bit.